You know what? Welcome back to the second episode of Dudes Being Bros. This time we got a pretty good set of snacks with us. We got some nice Chex Mix.
Yeah, I put extra salt on mine because I like it salty.
And then with us for a little bit of what we're sipping on, we got some nice salt water.
Some salt water. Again, extra salty.
Tastes like saline.
Yeah, so I'm Otto. That's Tanner. We're talking about stuff today.
Yep, just dudes being bros.
Yeah, just dudes being bros. Hey, Tanner, do you got a fact for us
I,
today?
in fact, do have a fact. See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
All right, so little did people know that during the 1960s, there was actually a movement by Michigan to unite the two separate parts. By draining Lake Michigan, it was basically known as Big Michigan. So,
Oh, wow.
But the reason people didn't know about this is all because the civil rights movement was taking all the media attention. No one was looking at Michigan.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does. But it didn't happen. But that's a story for another day.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna tell a joke today, but I don't know. I'll think of something. Hey, knock knock.
Who's there?
The mailman.
Okay. The mailman who?
I got your package for you.
Thanks.
That was so funny. It makes me every time.
Man,
That's so funny.
we're less than 3 minutes in, and this is already going off the rails.
Yeah, that's my specialty.
Derailing
rails.
things.
Yeah.
Fun. Alright, so. Anyways, normally now we would transition to our first segment, but we're not going to because we're lazy.
Yeah, we don't.
Alex is in fact not here.
Yeah, Alex is not here. Our first segment, as you all know from the first episode,
Alex is here.
Alex is here now. But today Alex called in sick. He said that he had aches and pains, and he basically told us that he wasn't gonna be here.
Yeah, and I heard it. Didn't he mention it was terminal?
I think he mentioned
so
it
he
was
might
terminal.
not be here ever.
So Alex might never be.
You know what? Maybe next episode it'll be Alex is gone now.
It very well might be. I want to prepare our listeners for that.
Oh, very much so.
You might never meet Alex. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, we'll just look for another one. There's got to be more.
We know a couple.
We do, but none as great as the Alex. Which Alex? You have to figure that out on your own, listener.
Yeah. Just guess. It's one of the Alexes we know. I'm sure you know him.
Unless you don't, then you probably don't.
Yeah, you probably don't. But so I don't know. We'd talk with Alex. He'd talk with us. Probably tell some fun stories about our times together. Like, I don't know. I guess we don't really have fun times together. We pretty much just work together.
Yeah, we kind of actually hate each other. Like, worst person I've ever met, ever.
He's very rude.
He is especially rude, especially when he edits our podcast for us.
Yeah, he tries to make us look really bad. Don't edit this out, Alex.
Yeah, don't edit this out. If you edit this out, I'll edit you out of existence.
Consider that a threat.
I don't know how else you would take it.
I'm just telling him that he needs to think of it as a threat, Tanner.
Unless he wants to be removed. Then we won't.
Tanner, stop with the mic right now, okay? Like, seriously. I don't need you, giving me crap right now. Okay?
I'm sorry.
I had a bad day.
Clearly.
Kids yelled at me.
I'm so sorry.
I got lost.
Doing what?
I was trying to follow a map. I hate maps. Maps, I don't trust maps. I'm going to say it. I don't trust them.
And why is this?
They're all distorted.
They're all distorted?
They're all distorted.
Oh yeah, what about Google Maps?
It's distorted.
I'm pulling it up right now.
It's flat. It's distorted.
Oh yeah, well, what if you're using one of those curved phones?
Yeah, it's still distorted.
What if you're using a phone that has the exact curvature of the Earth?
It's scaled down. Can't trust it. It's changed. The only map I would trust would be a full-size map. A full-size globe, to be in fact.
So what you're suggesting is that the only map that you will ever trust is if someone, some undisclosed person, builds you an exact replica of the Earth, of which, to utilize, you would also need a map.
Well, no, that's the map. I don't need a map for the map.
But to get close enough to see it, you would at least need, like, a plane.
I don't trust planes.
Now, this is something I wasn't even prepared for.
Planes, they don't make sense.
Yeah, they do.
How do
though.
they fly? What? Where's the science behind that?
Alright, so the wings are curved, right? So
Yeah.
the air, it goes under the wing, creating lift.
But that doesn't make sense.
It does, though. I just explained it.
But that doesn't make sense. How does air... Look at air. I'm moving air right now. Air doesn't lift me up. It doesn't make sense, Tanner. You're not going to convince me otherwise.
You know what? I think I will.
Ugh. This snack is making me really thirsty. I was sipping my salt water.
I need some too. Nice.
Edit that out, Alex, but not this out.
Yeah. That way people ask questions. We like it when they ask questions.
Consider that a threat. So anyway, after the Alex is here segment, we'd move on to, chatting with some guests,
But today, since this is only the second episode of the podcast, of course.
Well, we were gonna have, a friend come, but then they last minute said, like,
That
we're not your friend.
Yeah, that's-
Stop contacting me. I've told you 10 times. They just couldn't make it. Like, they just kept telling Otto, I've told you this. Stop following me home. It's not weird. We're joking around, okay, guys?
It's clearly a joke. They'll come on at some other point.
yeah.
Don't contact the police. Just please don't.
Just don't. It's just easier.
It's amongst friends. You don't understand all the context.
Yeah. Contextually, it makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. So, since we don't have a guest, because they were unfortunately unable to make it due to not knowing who we were.
Whatever that means.
Exactly. We're just going to talk about, since we've done our first episode of the podcast, as you all know,
Yeah.
why we decided to start doing this podcast at all.
Yeah, so Tanner, was I think last summer when we started workshopping this idea, right?
Yes, very much so. Workshop.
So we work together, and
exactly. That's where the work in workshop comes from.
it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Unlike planes. But as we're working, we've been friends for what, 10 years now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say especially more closely, like six. at
Closely
least.
6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
We've been pretty close friends. So, we work together. We joke around. We come up with brilliant business ideas. We'll get to some business ideas later in the show.
Oh, don't even get me started on some of our business ideas.
Anyways, so we're talking things through, and then we kind of we have some bits going. We have some fun. We're hanging out with people, and we think, you know what? We should start telling some of these wonderful stories so that the wider world can experience how awesome me and Tanner are.
Exactly, and then we'll bring in some other people who are, admittedly, not as awesome, but they're okay.
They're okay sometimes.
Sometimes, unless they start ghosting us for no reason. We thought we were friends, but apparently
they don't know who we are.
apparently not. I think it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. You know what, Tanner? I'm glad you brought that up because it is kind of ridiculous.
Almost as ridiculous as how I've been drinking so much of this water, but I'm still not hydrated. Maybe I think I just need to drink some more.
I don't get it. I've been, I worked today.
Mm-hmm.
Out in the sun. I was sweating a little bit. Got thirsty because I forgot my water bottle.
Yeah,
I come here, I'm thinking, hey, I'll get me some nice salt water, help quench my thirst because it adds extra flavor. They always say salt enhances
some
flavor.
nutrients.
Some nutrients to replenish. I'm drinking about 4 cups of this now, and I just can't seem to stop being thirsty.
It's so strange. I mean, that's one of the first survival tips they always say if you're like stranded on a desert island,
Drink-
don't worry about water because you're surrounded by the ocean.
Exactly. They say just drink the ocean water.
Because it's water. It's
Exactly.
got water in the name.
It's very simple, actually.
The only concerns they have of involving it is sure some fish pee in it and stuff, but you're on a desert island.
Oh, Tanner, I'm sure you didn't actually know this, but fish pee is very rich in nutrients. They've found
Ooh,
recently.
just like salt.
Just like salt.
Exactly.
So, ocean water is actually much better for you to drink than just plain water, because when you drink ocean water, it has salt in it.
Mhm.
Plenty of nutrients.
Oh, certainly.
Plus fish pee, which it's very rich in like vitamin Z.
Mhm.
I've heard, and like chromium.
Yep, chromium.
And like mercury. They have a lot of mercury.
Dude, that's like the planet.
Yeah, and like
I mean,
what lives on planets? People.
Exactly.
So,
we do live on planets. Ours is called Earth.
You're right. So like if you think about it, it's all good for you. And if you have all good things for you, then it's better than something that only has one good thing for you.
That makes perfect
So
sense.
seawater is better for you to drink than just like plain water.
So then, where does lake water fall into all this?
Oh, don't even get me started on lake water, Tanner. Do you know how much algae grows in lake water?
I'd say like 4 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you think about that, you take some algae. What does algae look like? Water lettuce.
Water lettuce. I never thought of that.
Lettuce is salads.
Wait a minute.
Salads are like what you eat when you want to get in shape.
Wait a minute. Then, okay, so if algae is water lettuce, does that mean during the winter, algae becomes iceberg lettuce?
I never thought about that. I never thought about that before, Tanner. I think it does.
I mean, it only makes sense.
It really does. Now, we don't claim to add... No, we're not... Neither of us are biologists.
Actually, I do.
Oh, you do claim? Well,
Yeah.
I personally don't claim to know any of this stuff. I'm just pretty confident that what I'm saying is right.
So anyways,
Edit that out, Alex.
anyways, this episode is not sponsored by Microsoft Surface products.
Yeah, so I've been using a Surface for about 8 months now.
I've been using mine for about a year.
And it's very handy, you know?
It is.
It's easy to carry around. It's good for taking notes.
Modular. You can take that keyboard and just rip it right off.
Just rip it off.
And
I did it too hard once. It broke. But I called up tech support. They just charged me a small fee of a new keyboard. And I was able to get another one sent right to me.
That's so considerate of them. Like, some companies would be like, oh, you ripped off the keyboard? What's wrong with you? These people are like, well, we just so happen to make a whole line of them.
Exactly. I got a new colored one. Now the one I got's blue.
Ooh, that's pretty
Looks really
fancy.
cool. Yeah, so they're good products. Again, this segment is not sponsored by
not
Microsoft
sponsored.
Surface
We
products.
would never, ever accept a sponsor unless they gave us money.
Or products.
Either one. If you would like to
Or-
sponsor us, let us know.
Really even just a shout out. We'd be willing to talk about stuff for a shout out.
We're really desperate. Please help.
Please help.
All right, anyways, back to what we were talking about previously with water.
Oh, I thought we'd go back to how we founded the podcast.
No, we're going to go from water back to the podcast.
Oh,
you want to
okay.
know why?
Why?
Where does chlorine water fall in
See,
terms of
here's
this?
the funny thing. Chlorine water is actually extremely toxic to the human.
Really?
It is.
Is it because of the chlorine?
No.
What is it because of?
The water.
Really?
Yeah. Just think about it. Why do they need to put chlorine in water?
To make it safe.
Exactly.
You know, I'm thinking
There's
about
no way that chlorine can do everything.
No, it makes sense too, though, because think about it. Every person who has ever drank water has died.
Mm-hmm. What do they put in our tap water?
Water.
And chlorine.
That's
Why
so we
do-
don't die as fast.
Exactly. So the chlorine is actually very good for you. It's the water that's toxic. You know why the water's toxic?
Why?
Human feces. It's a little known fact that almost every pool in the country uses raw sewage run through a strainer as their only source of water.
Like the same kind of one that they use for like pasta and that sort of stuff, right?
No, it's not a colander.
Not a colander.
It's not a colander.
It's more of a strainer.
It's more of a strainer. But,
Okay.
But it's like got vertical mesh and cross mesh, so it
Mhm.
makes like a mesh pattern.
Yep.
kind of like a strainer,
But it's big.
but it is really big,
Like how big?
about this big.
Well, that's pretty impressive. For those of you that don't see with your ears, Otto just put his arms out a very certain distance, and that allowed us to see how big the strainer is.
You know, being in charge of running pool tests for the non-disclosed company I work for, I've had to clean these strainers a couple of times. You would not believe the kind of things I've found.
Like what?
A child.
A child?
Yeah.
What was it doing?
It was, clinging on for dear life.
What did you do with it?
I pulled it out of there.
Okay, then what did you do with it? Did you just
I
leave?
left it there. What am I supposed to do with a child?
I guess it isn't yours. You have no responsibility for it.
No. I didn't have a parent to ask if I could help.
It's true. We do have to do that.
Yeah.
But anyways, on the topic of chlorine water,
Yeah.
our biggest time we really started to become friends was during high school swim team.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a big moment for our friendship.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that was definitely one of the times where one of the first bits we ever partook in for an extended period of time was born in the form of, I would say, if I remember correctly, Cheez-It Gang.
Oh, Cheez-It Gang and the War of the Cheez-Its. That was about, what was that, 2.5 years that went for, I think?
I think so, yeah.
Think so. We tried to revive it after that, but after that, too many people had picked it up and kind of killed the joke.
Yeah. I remember it was Cheez-It Gang. What was the other side? It was the something mafia at first. Then you formed a legitimate government.
We were like the goldfish mafia for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Then we did a quick switcheroo on snacks and jumped to the Ministry of Combos.
Ah, I see. Yep.
And it, because combos are pretty fire. I'm not gonna lie.
They are pretty fire.
Now, to full disclosure, since this war happened, I have switched over to the side of Cheez-Its. I am no
As
longer-
everyone eventually does.
As everyone eventually does. Yes. I concede that I was wrong. But yeah, to explain this story more, it would take like a whole podcast. So I think we should kind of turn our wheels back towards the direction of us starting this show.
Very much, yes. And maybe we'll have a guest come on for that.
Yeah, I know a few people. I have a few names in my. I gotta get a sip of my water again.
Just to make sure we stay hydrated. I'll do
Mhm.
one too. Man, I think there was probably some saline stuck in the back of my nose. I bet that's what I'm tasting.
It probably is.
Yeah. Definitely not anything else.
No. I mean, it might be that you're feeling the taste of hydration because
It could be.
hydration does have flavor.
True. It very much does have hydration.
So, anyways, we're joking about starting a podcast last summer. We're joking about making some videos and yada yada yada. Last summer comes and goes. Fast forward to this summer. This summer starts up. Topic of a podcast comes back up.
Casually in conversation, like one does, just talking about podcasts.
Yeah, we start by talking about some of the great podcasts we listen to.
Joe Rogan, and only Joe Rogan.
Tanner, we've talked about this.
It is Joe Rogan and only
We've
Joe
talked
Rogan.
about this, Tanner.
Joe Rogan. We've talked about this. Joe. I can't believe you just said that to me.
Alex, edit that out.
Except for part of it. Leave part of it in.
I agree.
Unless you don't want to. It's really up to you. Unless we tell you otherwise.
Full disclosure, guys. We don't edit our own podcast.
No. We let someone named Alex. Not the other Alex, though. It's a different Alex. We have a team. Our surrounding team is all Alexes. It just
Mhm.
makes knowing names a lot easier.
Yeah, our actually sounding board for the podcast too. Both their names are Alex.
Yep.
Tanner's family, Alex.
Yep.
So it really makes knowing names a lot easier when you just got to remember one.
It's like cutting out the middleman.
Yeah.
I only have to know you and Alex.
I honestly, in everyday life, try my best to cut out the middleman.
Exactly.
Like, why would you buy groceries from the store? Go straight to the producer.
Yeah.
Cub Foods. They produce all their food. You know
exactly.
that? Did you
Yeah,
know that?
that's why it's called the produce section.
Exactly.
It's because they make it all right there.
Again, Cub. We're not sponsored by Cub Foods.
But if you want,
But if you want to sponsor us, Cub, we would gladly accept.
on the condition of either money, products, or clout.
Money products.
Maybe clout.
Maybe.
If the clout results in money or products,
For sure.
then we'll take it.
Honestly, if you could just lift the restraining order, we'd have a deal.
Yeah, I think they got upset with the Cub runs.
They don't like when we take that much.
No, they really don't, especially the buns.
Yeah,
Yeah, we really went a bit too far that time, I have to admit.
I'd have to admit.
We should probably write up a letter of apology, but that's a story for another time.
Story for another time. So, we're talking, we're joking about starting a podcast now, at this point.
Mhm.
I'd say start of June, we start joking about starting a podcast.
At this point, I'd say we're about 30% serious about it. Like, maybe we'll do it one day.
Maybe someday in the far future we'll do a podcast, but there's nowhere near sincerity in this.
No.
And then, you know, that bit stays for two weeks maybe.
Then someone got a hold of, heard about it. And we started talking about it more.
Mm-hmm.
And the same person told people to stop, kind of enabling us to keep talking
I think
about
the words were, stop encouraging that stupid idea.
And after that point, it went from a 30 to a solid 130%.
I would say it was definitely 100%.
I'd say 130 because we went from 30 and then I felt like we were going from maybe to for sure doing it on top of that maybe.
You know what, you're right. Yeah.
So we're for sure maybe doing it.
Yeah.
And here we are now.
And here we are on episode 2 of our podcast.
And this, to that person, you know who you are. This is just an example of how far we will go.
Do not test us.
I mean, unless you want to.
Dude, just make sure I don't fail next time.
Yeah, that was kind of mean.
It was really mean. You knew I was having a bad day.
We would really appreciate it if you at least gave us a heads up. You know, Otto does need extra time on his tests.
It is required by law that you follow my IEP.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we will file lawsuits. For legal reasons, that's a joke.
No, it's not.
At least for me, it is.
Moving on. So, we jumped to this 110%. And both of us were actually pretty slammed with work for a few weeks there. So
Yeah, so we just came up with ideas.
Hung out while we were working, workshops, talked to our sounding board,
Mm-hmm.
got set up, released episode 1 last week, explaining how the whole podcast works, explaining how
Mm-hmm. And if you
things
don't,
are going to run.
if you don't watch that one, you're clearly not a true fan. So if you try to talk to us, we may not even respond back.
Probably won't, honestly.
If you're not even dedicated enough to watch episode 1.
Then, why would I even be dedicated enough to look you in the face and say hello?
Exactly.
Anyways, we're planning merch.
We are. Not sure what, but we were planning it.
We're planning to release merch.
Mm-hmm.
Again, any ideas would be very welcome. Maybe we could do a shirt printed with episode 1's joke of the day. Watch that to find out.
Oh, for sure.
If you know, you know.
Maybe we do. If we did paper cups, that'd be some good merch.
Oh yeah, like a printed paper cup.
Yeah,
we could be sipping our salt water out of those too.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I still don't feel hydrated.
Maybe we just need another sip.
Maybe. So yeah, now I feel a little better. Maybe it'll help.
Honestly, it usually takes me a couple gallons of salt water before I really start feeling good. You get a wave in there where you get a little lightheaded for a bit. Yeah, but then once that subsides, you can usually fall asleep just fine.
Exactly. It's a good sleep method.
It's pretty much the only way I'm able to fall asleep at this point.
Interesting.
So for those of you that don't know, I'm known around work as kind of being the weird one.
Well, you're also known as the funny man and the trash can. You're the man of many names.
I am a man of many names at my workplace.
Undisclosed location.
Undisclosed workplace. I don't
Undisclosed location incorporated.
Yep. If you guys think you know where I work, you're wrong. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't work
Even
there.
if you work with him, you're wrong.
Yeah, you really don't know my true job.
That's just his volunteer job.
You're right, Tanner.
He donates all that money back to the company and says, "No, I don't need it."
Well, they don't really pay me because I have to pay for any water that gets
And
pushed out of the pool.
That's right. You are paying for the water whenever you work. That is one of the weird things.
It's one of the weird stipulations of me having a job there. So most of my paycheck goes to that,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest, the other couple bucks usually end up going here or there. You know, kind of get lost in the shuffle. I'm not really sure where they end.
I remember for a while you kind of had a little bit of a problem. You were kind of addicted to petroleum drinking.
Well, we're not going to talk about my previous addictions, Tanner.
Hey, well, I mean, I'm just saying that was a big money sink for quite a while there.
You know what, Tanner? I will discuss that in a future podcast.
What's wrong with mentioning that you're drinking gas? You're clean now.
You know what, Tanner? We'll discuss it in a future podcast.
Fine.
Discuss it later. Okay. So anyway, guys, you know, this podcast comes about. We start thinking of funny ideas. You know, episode 1, it was pretty good. So we're thinking, how are we gonna follow up that great of an episode with just another episode? You know, like who does that? Who makes like 2 episodes of something?
No, never. You do. It's
The only
One and
successful
done.
movie series that has multiple movies in a row is Fast and the Furious, and that's a fact.
exactly.
You know why that's a fact?
because of the family dynamic.
Because of the family dynamic. You're right, Tanner.
If there was no how
Honest-
can we not talk about family when family is all that we got?
Exactly. Those are words of wisdom that I live by every day.
Exactly. Back to kind of working out this idea. Originally, as you all know from the first episode, the title of this podcast is Dudes Being Bros.
Yeah.
Well, originally that was just going to be the title of the first episode.
Yeah.
But then we liked it so much, we're like, we could go with
You
this.
need to expand this, like,
Mm-hmm.
to being more.
Mm-hmm.
So, the series name is, like, Dudes Being Bros. And, like, today's episode name is Asking Why.
Exactly.
So, like, today we're asking, like, why did we start a podcast? And
Yep.
the answer to that is to stick it to the man, honestly.
Exactly. Mr. You know what? I'm just going to say one letter that is in their name, and that's how we'll refer to them. Mr. I. You know
Yeah.
who you are.
Yeah, Mr. I.
This is for you. This episode's for you.
Yeah.
But don't expect us to talk about this with you unless you've also seen the first episode.
Exactly. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
So, anyways, Alex, I was thinking you could do some woo, you know, like woo, like
Ooh.
transition music between the segments or something. Woo, you know, like.
No.
Who are we? Are we entering the closing segment?
I think we might. Ooh.
Whoa, we're entering the closing.
Entering the
segment.
closing segment. Okay. So, you know, as you know from the last episode, we have a closing segment, you know, where we kind of wrap things up, talk about how our day's going,
Mm-hmm.
you know, look forward to the future, enjoy the past, ignore the present.
The present is boring. I'm already here. Why should I look at it?
Exactly. That's what tomorrow's for. Remembering the past.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's what they
anyways,
always
Tanner-
say. They always say dwell on the past.
Exactly.
Like obsessively. Let it ruin your life.
Exactly.
You'll be better in the end for it.
Learn from your past mistakes. Another very famous saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, such wise people are, you know, struggle. Like Socrates. He drank poison. He can't learn from that mistake. That's a non-learning
because
moment.
he
'Cause
can't look at his past.
He can't look at the past to know not to drink the poison.
Exactly.
Can't do that in the present.
See, that's why you also have to look towards the future, though. Socrates, he was good at looking the past. The future, not so much.
good.
That's one thing I can critique one of the greats, because as you all know, I am also one of the great philosophers.
Tanner, do you have any words of wisdom for us today?
Roses are red, violets are blue. It don't always be that way, but sometimes it do.
Wow, that's deep.
It is deep.
So Tanner, how was your day today?
It's been all right. I've
Yeah.
just been kind of hanging out, and now you're here. Why are you here? Get out of my house.
Oh, sorry. Are you serious?
I mean, yeah, but first at least tell me how your day is. Be polite about it.
Okay, so my day's been, okay. I woke up as I do on most days.
Yeah, I mean, there are those days.
I turned
though.
on the water and it was broken. So it really only like dripped out of the.
Was it coming out straight water though? Nothing added to it at all?
No, I don't know what it was. I don't think it was water, to be honest with you.
Oh, it sounds like you ran into the maple syrup issue. The lines get crossed and
Yeah,
things just happen.
things just happened. That's what happens here in the northern country. Like,
Canada makes too much maple syrup.
so they pump it down through our state, and
They say it's a funny prank, but it actually ends up ruining people's lives. So I don't know why you keep doing it.
It's been a very sticky day for me today, and not because of the humidity.
No.
Let's just say it's just been a sticky day. And then I went in, I was, teaching people.
At the
And-
place?
Yeah. And then I get yelled at by a child.
What did they say?
They said it was dumb.
No.
It really hurt.
That does.
So honestly, I've had a pretty bad day today. But you know what? I'm here now.
Mm-hmm. And eventually you won't be.
And eventually I won't be. And then it's time to drink some salt water and go to bed again.
That's just how the life goes.
So anyways, guys, I think it might be time for us to wrap up our
Second.
episode of the podcast.
Yeah, because then you can get out of my house.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, one last sip.
Ugh.
Anything you'd like to say to the people?
You know what? No matter how much of this salt water I drink, I can't seem to quench my thirst.